Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz bassist, vocalist, and composer Jeff Denson. He talked about his 2019 CD, Between Two Worlds. He's joined by a powerhouse group of cats, including drummer Brian Blade, and he talks about all of that. So, soon after graduation, these musicians pursued their own careers, but reunited occasionally to reclaim their musical camaraderie. And this album is a testament to that combined voice and the great conversation they have. Jeff talks about this, so please dig it.
All right, well, hey, Jeff, thanks for taking a minute out to talk to Neon Jazz today about the newest album, Between Two Worlds. I'm looking forward to talking about it. I've really enjoyed listening to this album.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sure. So I know that this is kind of a reunite, or it's a reunion, so to speak, of some very quality players that you have on this album. So talk to me a little bit about how this project came together and this kind of shared vision that you all had to get this project made.
2 years ago, I got called to do a tour to play with a band called Joel Harrison's Spirit House, and it had Kung Vu on trumpet, great trumpet player from the Pat Metheny group, and my good friend Paul Hansen on bassoon. Joel was on guitar, and Brian Blade was on drums. And I had never played with Joel or Brian before, but I had played with Paul and Kung many times. And so when the regular bass player, Kermit Driscoll, had a health problem, Paul recommended me, and so I ended up doing the tour with him. And right away from the first tune and the first sound check, I knew, wow, there's something special with Brian, like connection-wise. By the end of the week-long tour, we did, I think it was four nights. We did SF Jazz, the Art Boutique in San Jose, the Angel City Jazz Festival in LA, and then Dizzy's in San Diego. At the end of the last gig, Brian and I said, oh man, we got to do something together again. So I thought, well, I'll figure out what to do. And then the next year, I reconnected with my old friend Romain Pilon, who's an amazing guitar player from Paris, France. We went back all the way, we went to college together. So this fall, I will have known, actually now, I will have known Romain now for 20 years. When we were in school together back in Boston, we played together all the time, like in every possible format you could imagine. We played duo, trio with drums, trio with horns, quartets, and we worked a lot together. Then after school, he went back to Paris, and I started moving around the country, and we didn't connect until about 10 years after that. When I was living in New York, he came to New York for a period of time, and we reconnected there, and then he went back to Paris, and then I moved to California. And so almost, another 8 years or so later, I reconnected with him and brought him out to California to do a series of concerts and workshops for Ridgeway Arts Presents. It was just so good to play with him again and to spend, a week. We did five concerts and 5 workshops, and the music was great, and the personal thing was great. And we're just really good friends, and it just felt right. And I knew, I was like, man, I have an idea. Like, let's do a recording. I just played a tour last year with Brian Blade, and it was incredible. And of course he was like, well, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. So that's how it came together. Aside from them both being amazing musicians, there's something similar in their personalities and in how they approach music, and I knew it would be an incredible mix.
So, the one thing from a listening standpoint, since I'm not a musician, there's probably a lot of people that will listen to this that aren't musicians. You always hear that the beauty of the jazz process is that it's really a conversation. It's a conversation with instruments. And the thing that struck me about this album is there's this seamlessness. There's this chill vibe that goes into it. It just sounds like you all are in a room having a good conversation. Is that the way it feels to you?
Yeah, that's exactly it. The magic of this trio is really what you just said. There's a very conversational aspect to it. I mean, it's actually very fast moving. Like when we when we perform, it's not like bass and drums keep the time and the guitar solos. I mean, we do that. We all solo and we all support each other. It's not like any one of us takes a supportive, like a background role during the trio. That's kind of the magic thing about it. It's any one of us could be pushing an idea forward, and the other two are responding to it in real time. And even in the course, like if it's quote unquote the guitar solo, Brian or I or both are like speaking about what Roman's playing while it's happening and throwing out like really strong ideas. It's hard to put into words. I mean, it's easier to hear it than for me to really talk about it so much, but it's definitely conversational.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to playing it for my audience. Jeff, thanks again for another phenomenal album. Thank you for taking some time out over your cup of coffee to kind of wake up and talk about this, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in California, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Jeff for his time and his music. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.